Part 14, Chapter 14, Part 2. I didn't. I used my wisdom. From the memories, I knew that there had been times in the past, terrible times, when people had destroyed others and hesitated in fear and had brought about their own destruction. Johnson realized something. That means, he said slowly, that you have memories of destructions. And you have to give them to me too, because I have to get the wisdom the giver nodded. But it will hurt, Jonas said. It wasn't a question. It will hurt terribly, the giver agreed. But why can't everyone have the memories? I think it would seem a little easier if the memory was shared. You and I wouldn't have to bear so much by ourselves if everybody took a part. The giver sighed. You're right, he said, but then everyone would be burdened and pained. They don't want that. And that's the real reason the receiver is so vital to them, and so honored. They select me and you to lift that burden from themselves. When did they decide that? Jonas asked angrily. It wasn't fair. Let's change it. How do you suggest we do that? I've never been able to think of a way, and I'm supposed to be the one with all the wisdom. But there are two of us now, Jonas said eagerly. Together we can think of something. The giver watched him with a weary smile. Why can't we just apply for a change of rules? John suggested. The giver laughed. Then John's too, chuckled reluctantly. This decision was made long before my time. All yours, the giver said, and before the previous receiver, and he waited. Back and back and back, Jones repeated the familiar phrase. Sometimes it had seemed humorous to him. Sometimes it had seemed meaningful and important. Now it was ominous. It meant he knew that nothing could be changed. The new child, Gabriel, was growing and successfully passed the test of maturity that the nurturers gave each month. He could sit alone now, could reach for and grab small play objects, and he had 6 teeth. During the daytime hours, father reported, he was cheerful and seemed of normal intelligence, but he remained fretful at night, whispering, often needing frequent attention. After all this extra time I put in with them, father said one evening after Gabriel had been bathed and washed and was lying, for the moment, hugging his hippo practically in the small crib that had replaced the basket. I hope they're not going to decide to release him. Maybe it would be for the best, Mother suggests. I know you don't mind getting up with him at night, but the lack of sleep is awful hard for me. If they release Gabriel, can we get another new child as a visitor? Asked Lily. She was kneeling beside the crib, making funny faces at the little one, who was smiling back at her. Jonas's mother rolled her eyes and dismay. No, father said, smiling. He ruffled Lily's hair. It's very rare, anyway, that a new child's status is as uncertain as Gabriel's. It probably won't happen again for a long time, anyway. He sighed. They won't make the decision for a while. Right now, we're all preparing for release. We'll probably have to make very soon. There's a birth mother who's expecting twin males next month. Oh dear, said. Oh dear, mother said, shaking her head. If they're identical, I hope you're not the one assigned. I am. I'm next one. I'm next on the list. I'll have to select the one to be nurtured and the one to be released. It's usually not hard though. Usually it's just a matter of birth weight. We release the smaller of the two. John is listening though. Thought John is listening. Thought suddenly about the bridge and the house ending there. He had wondered what lay elsewhere. Was there someone there waiting who'd received the tiny released twin? Would it grow up elsewhere, not knowing ever that in this community lived a being who looked exactly the same? For a moment he felt a tiny, fluttering hope that he knew what was quite foolish. He hoped that it would be Larissa waiting, Larissa, the old woman he had bathed. He remembered his sparkling eyes, her soft voice, her low chuckle. Fiona had told him recently that Larissa had been released at the wonderful ceremony, but he knew that the old were not given children to release. Larissa's life elsewhere would be quiet and serene as Bethfit the old. She would not welcome the responsibility of nurturing a new child who needed feeding and care, and would likely cry at night. Mother, father, he said, the idea coming to him unexpectedly. Why don't we put Gabriel's crib in my room tonight? I know how to feed and comfort him, and let you and father get some sleep. Father looked doubtfully. You sleep so soundly, Jonas. What if his restlessness didn't wake you? It was Lily who answered that. If no one goes to tend Gabriel, she pointed out, he gets very loud. He'd wake all of us if John slept through it. Father laughed. You're right, Lily Billy. All right, Jonas, let's try it. Just for tonight. I'll take the night off and we'll let Mother get some sleep too. Gabriel slept soundly for the earliest part of the night. Jonas, in his bed, lay awake for a while from the to time he raised himself on one elbow looking over at the crib. The new child was on his stomach, his arms relaxed beside his head, his eyes closed and his breathing regular and undisturbed. Finally John slept too. Then as the middle hours of the night approached, the noise of Gabe's restlessness woke Jonas. The new child was turning under his cover, fluttering his arm, and beginning to whimper. Jonas rose and went to him. Gently he patted Gabriel's back. Sometimes that was all it took to lull him back to sleep, but the new child still screamed fretfully under his hand, still patting ry- ry- rhythmically. Jonas began to remember the wonderful sail that the giver had given him not long before in bright breeze day on a clear turquoise lake, and above him the white sail of the boat billowing as he moved along in the brisk wind. He was not aware of giving the memory, but suddenly he realized that it was becoming dimmer, that it was sliding through his hand into the being of the new child. Gabriel became quiet, started. Jonas pulled back what was left of the memory with a burst of will. He removed his hand from the little bag and stood quietly beside the crib. To himself he called the memory of the sail forward again. It was still there, but the sky was less blue, the gentle motion of the boat slower, the water of the lake more murky and clouded. He kept it for a while, smoothing his own nervousness at what had occurred, then let it go and returned to his bed. Once more towards dawn, the new child woke up and cried out. Again Jonas went to him. This time he quite deliberately placed his hands firmly on Gabriel's back and released the rest of the calming day on the lake. Again Gabriel slept. But now Jonas lay awake, thinking. He no longer had any more than whiffs of the memory, and he felt a small lake where it had been. He could ask the giver for another sail he knew, a sail perhaps on the ocean next time, for Jonas had a memory of ocean now, and knew what it was. He knew that there were sailboats there too, in memories yet to be acquired. He wondered, though, if he should confess to the giver that he had given a memory away. He was not yet qualified to be a giver himself, nor had Gabriel had been selected to be a receiver. That he had this power frightened him. He decided not to tell.